All right, sweet. Flatline MMA podcast episode number 24. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Listen, you know the deal. CBD Medic. Go buy some. Click the link below for 10% off. Use the code Flatline10. Kev, let's just get right into this. Today we're going to recap the wild and crazy UFC 248. Unreal card. The main event, we'll talk about that. But overall, this card was an absolute barn burner. Loved every single fight, minus the main event. So we'll get into that a little bit. And then we're going to talk, we'll talk main event for this weekend's card. Very pivotal lightweight fight between Kevin Lee, Charles Oliveira. Definitely a lot at stake here. So this is a huge fight for UFC Fight Night 170, UFC Brazil. So let's just get right into this, buddy. UFC 248 obviously had all the makings to be, the best card of the year so far, right? From, January, Conor McGregor starting to John Jones fighting to UFC 248, right? The year has been stacked. UFC 248 definitely came out guns a-blazing. We had two title fights. We had the co-main event, Weili Zhang taking on Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and the main event for the strawweight title. And then the main event, we had Israel Adesanya taking on Yoel Romero for the middleweight title. So already that pops out to you saying this is going to be a great card. So, but just kind of going through things, right? We had prelims. Our guy, I know we're a huge fan, Sugar Sean O'Malley, coming off of a 2-year layoff. The kid looked great. His movement, his flow. I thought he looked better than ever. We can just touch upon this one real quick because I think this kid's going to be a stud. I think he came out. He made a statement after 2 years off. I didn't see any ring rust. I really just saw him look better than he's ever done. So, Kev, what'd you think about Sugar Sean?
Yeah. The other thing too is how strong he looked.
Yeah.
If you look back on his when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, he looked so skinny.
He was a twig.
He didn't really have any muscle or anything. He came out, he looked a lot healthier, a lot stronger, and you could see that in the kicks and his punches. Like they were just snapping. But yeah, he was super fast, super accurate. It was a great fight for him. It was an easy one for him.
Yeah. And what I was most impressed with, I know, Kev, you ended up posting the video today, but the killer instinct he had. He didn't rush in. He didn't make the mistake like most people do and rush in and get wild when they see, when they smell blood, right? He had that nice knockdown, but I think he was really patient with it. He took his time and he finished Jose properly. So I was just super impressed, man, especially 2 years off.
Yeah.
He could have done what a lot of fighters do. They get frustrated when they get suspended, right? They can just gain a bunch of weight and not train as hard. But you could tell that he really took the time to build on some mass, really learn his craft. I know he said specifically one of his weaknesses was on the ground. I know he trained just BJJ over and over and over again. So, obviously he didn't have to use it in this fight, but his striking looked ridiculous. I know the fight lasted, a little less than 2 minutes, but the kid looks good. I think he's a star in the making. What I'm hoping the UFC does is I hope they take their time with him and they don't throw him to the wolves. I can see this kid. I'm hoping he gets a top 15 next, but let's not push it. Let's not talk title fights. Let's not talk anything big for this kid. Let's build him up. He just missed out on 2 years. He's only 25 years old. So this kid's got a future. So the UFC just needs to, take it slow with this kid and really develop him. So super excited to see what he does next. And then just honestly, an awesome main card. We won't touch upon, all of these here in depth, but Cowboy Oliveira, Max Griffin, hell of a fight. Those guys went 3-round war. Oliveira taking that decision there. So I was fine with that one. Thought that was just, like I said, a war. Neil Magny versus Li Jingliang. Lee, who's looked great, who's been on an absolute tear in the UFC here. Neil Magny, who's been sidelined for a year, right? And Lee kind of taking that step up in competition, and you could just tell there's levels to this man. And Neil Magny just stole the show. And coming off from a year layoff, no ring rust at all, Neil Magny just took control of that fight and just proved why he's one of the top welterweights in the world. So I'm hoping he gets a huge fight next. I know there's guys like out there like Chiesa who are looking for a fight, so I think that'd be a great matchup for him too. So he stole the show there. And then we had Beneil Dariush taking on Drakkar Klose. Oh my God, what a knockout! Dariush, who would have thought he had that in him? Guy's an absolute savage. Gets the knockout in round 2 after a crazy just 30-second exchange back and forth. So he got the 50K, the knockout bonus, which is amazing. So good for him. Good for those guys. They let it out all on the line. And then we come to the good stuff. We come to the in the main event. We had the co-main event, Weili Zhang taking on Joanna Jędrzejczyk for the Women's Strawweight Championship. Kev, I mean, there's not much to say about this. This is not only one of the greatest women's fights in MMA history, I think this is one of the greatest fights in MMA history. These two girls absolutely put it on the line. Everyone saw the pictures of Joanna's face. She had the hematoma on her head. Her nose is broken. She looked like a different person. You look at Weili Zhang, she's busted up. Her legs are busted up. These girls went 5-round war. Weili Zhang winning the split decision, razor close. Honestly, could have went either way. If I looked back on, I really do believe Joanna took that. I can see why they picked Weili just due to the damage with Joanna, but I truly believe if there wasn't as much damage on Joanna's face, I think she would have took that. But Weili Zhang getting the decision round 5. Kev, what'd you think about the fight? What'd you think about the decision? And overall, just like that fight was electric, right?
Yeah, no, it was crazy. There wasn't one moment where they slowed down. They took a break. Even in the clinch, in the takedowns, Joanna would pop right back up.
Yep.
They'd be throwing again. In the clinch, they were still throwing. They're throwing big elbows. It was just foot on the gas the entire fight for the two of them. It was so close. It was so hard to judge. And Joanna was throwing more volume, throwing more punches. Weili was hitting her harder every single time. She was just throwing some bombs and really connecting. Well, when I first watched it and I watched it again, I think Weili the first 2 rounds. She was really countering Joanna's punches pretty good. I think Joanna was sticking around a little too long, and she'd get caught at the end of her punches.
Yeah.
And then in the 5th, Weili kind of tweaked Joanna's nose, which you saw Joanna kind of touching and all that. So she hurt her there. But right at the very end, she caught Weili with a spinning elbow.
Yeah.
You see her cut on the side of her head. So it was just things like that. Like Weili would hurt her nose, and then Joanna would come back and cut the side of her face with a spinning elbow. It was it's how do you judge that? Who's doing more damage in this fight? It was pretty much every round you could have made a case for the other person to win.
Insane.
It was so close. But just crazy the entire fight, the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. It was nonstop action. These girls did not take a second to breathe. Even the commentators, right? You got the best in the game. You got Rogan, freaking DC Anik, just absolutely going nuts the whole fight. Not a second went by where I was like, okay, whatever. This was every round I was like, I don't know who won that round. Yeah. It was just that kind of fight.
You take your eyes away from it too.
Yeah.
You had to watch the entire time because you were missing too much action.
Yeah. When was the last time we saw a fight like that where it was you look away for a split second and you miss something crazy? And it's just with me, how good is Weili Zhang to take on Joanna, who has so much strawweight championship experience, so many 5-round fights she's been in, and for Weili to come in there and just endure punishment like that, but also give it to the greatest strawweight champion that the UFC's ever seen is super impressive. And doing it obviously a ton of pressure on her, right? The whole world's watching her. And just the whole thing too, I think, obviously with the whole virus thing going on in China too, her bouncing around training camps, going to Abu Dhabi, coming to the States, right? That's pretty impressive that she was able to do that too. So And then you got to just give it up for Joanna, because to be able to take that punishment and still fight with your forehead out to here and your nose sideways, how do you not just give up? But she continued to fight. She made no excuses after her name wasn't called. Like, you have to respect both of these women, man, because that was the most badass fight I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, it was just crazy. Like, Whaley literally, like, people say, like, oh, I'm going to rearrange your face. Like,
Yeah.
she literally did that to Joanna, and she still marched forward.
Insane.
Like, she added, like, surface area to Joanna's forehead. She had, like, this big target. But,
dude, when they first showed the video of her, punching her forehead and that little, the little like hematoma, I was like, okay, like this can't get worse, right? And then I swear to God, Whaley was just jabbing, and I was like, this thing's gonna explode by the end of the fight.
Dude, I was dying laughing when when it first started to pop up, it was like a small, like little thing. But I think it was like the third round, and Whaley punched her directly in the middle of it, like right on her forehead. And DC goes, she punched her on the bubble. She punched her on the bubble. He's freaking out, and Rogan was dying laughing. He punched her right on the bubble.
Oh, dude, they were doing that shit all fight. They're such a great trio together, man. They were hilarious. But yeah, I mean, dude, I didn't know what the rules were with that thing. Like, could they stop the fight with that thing on her head? Like, how dangerous is it? Like, because I didn't really know like the science behind it. Like, is that affecting her brain? Like, what is it? So I didn't know if they were gonna like stop the fight or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it definitely didn't look good.
Yeah,
it definitely doesn't look healthy, especially to be, taking the punches that it was for another
2 rounds, right?
So
3 rounds.
The thing started to grow in the third round. Another 10 minutes of straight punishment, which I think they said that they were up at like 600 strikes by the fourth round.
Oh my God, it was awesome.
Which is insane. Yeah, I can't pull up the numbers here, but yeah, it was just a crazy amount of strikes, crazy amount of volume, and Whaley's power was just something else.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be impressed with her. Someone with 4 UFC fights, now that being her 5th UFC fight under her belt, and for her to do that, defend her belt against, the greatest strawweight champion UFC's seen, is super impressive. And I know with her, Dana afterwards gave her high praise, said, hey, listen, Whaley has the makings to be, Conor McGregor star-like, Ronda Rousey star-like, and we're going to give her that same treatment. Which, dude, I can totally see that, man. Whaley is strong. She's powerful. She's got, all of China behind her. Plus, she just gained, think about how many new fans she just gained, man. Oh, yeah. Whether that was people think she lost that or she won that, it was way too close to say one or the other. It really was. Like, I wouldn't have cared if Joanna won that, and I didn't care that Whaley won it. Like, we just saw one of the greatest fights ever. I mean, now that was the co-main event. Think about that. We were thinking this whole time, like, we still got one more fight. But I mean, what's next for Whaley? I know Rose and Jessica Andrade fight soon. Do they make the rematch with Joanna? Does that make sense, or is that fight too good that, like, let's not spoil it again and hope that, and then maybe it's not as good as the first fight? Like, do you think you give Joanna some time off? Wait, what do you think you do, or do you think you make the Rose Andrade winner fight Whaley Zhang?
Yeah, I mean, it was such a great fight. You want to see it again, but these two need some time. Like,
oh my God,
they're going to need a lot of time before they come back. Or at least I hope they do. You don't want them coming back too soon, and whatever. You want them to recover the right way and come back 100%. But yeah, I don't know. I think it would make sense because, so say if Rose did win the fight, I think it would make sense to make that fight between her and Whaley.
Yeah.
Just because Rose had the belt, she beat Joanna twice.
Yep.
So I think that one's kind of interesting. If Andrade wins, then maybe go the route of, she's the number 1 contender, but do the rematch first.
Yeah,
between Joanna and Weili.
I wouldn't mind that.
That's kind of my thoughts on it, because Weili already fought Andrade, um, kind of one-sided. You know, it was a pretty quick fight. But yeah, that's the way I think it should go. But who knows?
Yeah, because I mean, I see Weili in a Thug Rose matchup. I think it's going down exactly like that. I think it's a
Yeah,
5-round war. I don't think you're putting away, Rose unless you slam her on her head like Andrade did. But even if
yeah,
you watch that fight again, Rose was piecing up Andrade the entire fight, and then it's just unlucky slam. You know what I mean? So I would love to see that fight. But I mean, overall, Weili, Joanna, thank you guys for literally one of the greatest fights I've ever seen. They announced Gustafsson versus Jones 1 is going into the Hall of Fame this summer during the card, but that one, years from now, this one's going to be talked about, and this one's going to be a Hall of Fame fight. So
yeah.
that was crazy. So you think the co-main event was one of the greatest things we've ever seen? The girls are bloodied, they're battered. Joanna's looking like an alien, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she's
um,
looking like Predator.
looking like friggin' Predator. So, and then you think to yourself, oh my God, we still have a main event between Israel Adesanya
Yeah.
taking on Yoel Romero for the middleweight belt. Yoel, Israel looking for his first title defense, asking for Yoel Romero. No one asked for Yoel Romero. This is such a dangerous fight for Israel to take. And I'm
Yeah.
super excited. We just came off that amazing fight. And what happens in the main event? It's an absolute doozy. One of the worst fights I've ever seen in my life. Um, let's just get right into this. I don't. There's a lot of people at fault here.
Yeah.
I, to me, honestly, I believe that it's Izzy's fault that he made this fight boring. Although Yoel stood there and he was like kind of just being weird and just hands up like this and just blogging. I expected Izzy to attack. I expected him to come in like Robert Whittaker did, because Yoel did this very similar thing in the Whittaker 2 fight, but Whittaker came in and he fought Yoel like a savage. That's why I respect Rob, because he came in. I respect, Paul Acosta, because he came in, he did the same thing. He fought Yoel, and I think Yoel was trying to bait him in to get into one of those wars that he usually gets into, but
Yeah.
Izzy's smart. He knew this fight was dangerous. He knew if he gets hit, his face is going to get rearranged too. We saw that. Yoel hit him a couple times, and everyone was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
But, we all know the fight ended 5-round decision going to Izzy, unanimous decision. Some people are saying that Yoel should have won, which I think is ridiculous, because I think Yoel threw like 3 punches the whole fight. But it was really just Yoel standing like this the whole fight. Izzy hit him with a couple body shots, and it was just kind of them dancing around the whole time. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to comment on it. I was friggin' so mad about it. But what'd you think about the fight? What'd you think about the decision? And then, personally, whose fault do you think it was? Was it more Yoel? Was it more Izzy? Was it both? Like, what did you think?
I think they're both to blame. I think Romero's taken a lot of the blame from the fighters and Dana. But I blame Izzy just as much too.
Mm-hmm.
They're both in there fighting each other. But yeah, no, it just sucked to see, especially coming off that co-main event. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of expectation now. And it was already an expectation that this fight was going to be huge anyway, just because of Romero's style, Izzy just being a knockout specialist.
Yeah.
You're just expecting it to be fireworks the entire fight, and it wasn't that way at all. Like the first round, I think it was the first minute and a half, they didn't even throw a punch. They weren't even in striking distance of each other. Like they couldn't even have thrown a kick and landed. Like that's how far away they're standing from each other. It was just really odd. But Izzy did what he had to do. Like he did the bare minimum to win that fight. He kind of outpointed him with leg kicks. I don't know. He was just really cautious with his strikes. He'd move in and out. He wouldn't throw any combinations. It was always one kick, one straight right hand, and then he was back out of range. What Romero did, which he should have done a lot more of the first thing that he did is he tried to stand and trade like leg kicks and stuff, which is
Which
stupid.
we said
Yeah.
that he was going to do that.
Which was just stupid. And he was trying to throw punches, but when he get in close and they didn't really work for him. But every time he rushed them and got Izzy off balance, I think that was like, his strategy to win was to turn it into a brawl. And if he was able to do that, then I don't know, because he had Izzy off balance a ton throughout that fight.
Mm-hmm.
And every time he did it, he got him off balance. Every time he rushed in, he threw some wild punches. He'd attempt a takedown, and then when they came back up, then he'd do some dirty boxing. He was having success with that, and he just, I don't know, he didn't dive deeper into that game plan, which I think was a mistake on his part. And he wasn't aggressive at all either.
No.
He took, the majority of the fight just kind of bouncing around and doing like this with his hands and whatever. But I had Izzy winning. Boring fight. It was like if Romero landed a couple more punches each round, you could make the argument that he won the fight.
Yeah.
It's like that's how even but like boring it was at the same time.
Yeah.
It wasn't even in like a competitive way.
I mean, you think too, and I look at Yoel and it's like, listen, you had 2 other opportunities to win an interim title. You missed weight both times, right? You lost both times. Yeah, they were really close. Now is your chance. You made weight, right? You're 42 years old. This is probably your last chance at a title shot. And you go out and you just perform like that. All the credit to the guy. He's 42 years old. He's an absolute monster. He got to where he was because he's a scary dude. He wins. But you're coming off of a loss, right? So it's already kind of controversial that you're getting this title shot. It's like, go out there and prove like why you deserve that. Like, Izzy came, he said he was talking a lot of shit. He said he was going to be the first person to put Yoel away properly. He was going to knock him out. That's kind of why I'm just like shocked with this fight. It was like, I really think there's animosity between these two. I think Israel really wanted to put out a good performance to excel him to that superstardom that he's been wanting and waiting for, but also like Yoel's chance to get the belt and raise his hand at 42 years old and like win gold. So it was just super disappointing. Like I couldn't, the whole fight, like I kept saying, I was like, okay, next round's going to be better. Next round's going to be better. 5th round, someone's getting knocked out. And it was just the same old song and dance. And it was like, you know what I mean? Then the last friggin' 15 seconds of the fight, they decide to turn it on. And it's like, where was this the whole fight? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you would think at the very least in the 5th round, Romero would have came out.
Yeah.
He would have, something would have switched. He would have, I don't know. I feel like he had to have known that he probably wasn't winning that fight.
100%.
And, like you said, he's 42 years old. He's had this opportunity plenty of times. He's always been right there, fighting the top guys. He's probably not going to get another one, especially with a performance like this. So, I don't know. I was thinking 5th round would have been his time to really open up, take some chances. He didn't do that. He did it too late into the fight.
Yeah, super disappointing. Obviously, with Izzy winning this sets up a absolute massive fight with another undefeated middleweight, Paulo Costa, who just had a war with Yoel Romero, who just had a fight of the year candidate. That was a back and forth fight of 2 savages. Paulo Costa, big friggin' yoked guy. Do I think that the Izzy Costa fight's going to be boring like that? Absolutely not. I think Izzy knows that, Costa is going to come to fight. Costa's a guy that he pressures you, man. He's not going to let you breathe. And that's what he did to Yoel Romero. And that's why it was a friggin' firefight. So Israel versus Paulo Costa, 2 undefeated young guys going at it. I think this is going to be a fight for the ages, to be completely honest. I know Costa was in the crowd. I think he had to get taken out because he was friggin' going so nuts because he was like, Israel's a pussy. He doesn't like fighting, like all this stuff. So, but I mean, overall, listen, UFC 248 was a phenomenal card. The main card, the main event was a doozy, unfortunately, but I do agree with you at some point. Izzy did what he had to do. He played it safe. He knew how dangerous Yoel was on the ground. You know, he got up from a couple of those takedowns, which was impressive. I didn't think he was going to be able to get up from that. So you got to take your hats off to Izzy. The guy is doing what he's saying he's doing. He's winning. He called out a guy that no one calls out, and now he's about to take on, an undefeated guy next, which is going to be, when was the last time you saw that in MMA? This is going to be a great fight. Hopefully they book that for like International Fight Week or something in July, which would be huge. And then what's next for Yoel? I don't know. I don't know who he fights here. I know Dana's pissed at him. He said in the post-fight press conference that he looked terrible. He was pissed. He shouldn't have booked this fight. So curious to see what Yoel does after this, because obviously he's still athletically gifted to be fighting till he's friggin' 60 probably. So
Yeah.
curious to see, who he takes on next. So, but overall, UFC 248, great card. We saw some unreal knockouts. We saw one of the greatest fights ever, not only just women's fights, but greatest fights ever. So another pay-per-view in the books, buddy. And then I want to just take a look real quick. Let's just preview the main event for this weekend's card, UFC Fight Night 170, UFC Brasilia. We have Kevin Lee taking on Charles Oliveira in a very important lightweight scrap. So I just want to get into this one. Kevin Lee, also, obviously, he kind of had his little skid, right? Kevin Lee, fought for the interim title after he was on an absolute tear. Obviously, losing to Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson's one of the pound for pound, I think, best in the UFC. So there's nothing to, hold your head down about. And then he came back with a vengeance, beating up on Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza is one of the scariest dudes in the lightweight division, right? And then, obviously, skid losing to Ali Quinta, then moving up to welterweight and taking on RDA, losing there. So he went back-to-back losses. Really, I think people kind of forgot about Kevin Lee. They forgot that the kid is still young, that he's still a killer, right? What he did in his past. And then what does the UFC do? The UFC throws him to the wolves on the biggest card of the year, and they put up against the killer, Gregor Gillespie, undefeated Gregor Gillespie, who's been murking people, whose wrestling is ridiculous. So everyone was kind of like, oh, Kevin Lee's going to lose again, right? And what does Kevin Lee do on the biggest card of the year, UFC 244, with the friggin' president in the front row? He murks Gregor Gillespie. One of the most vicious knockouts I've ever seen in my entire life. Gillespie's sleeping on the floor. I know Kevin Lee, he kind of switched training camps. He's with Faraz Sahabi now. He's up in Canada, training with the likes of GSP, and that's dangerous, man. I'm hoping to see the more humble Kevin Lee. Like, I know Faraz does things very differently than most trainers out there, but Kevin Lee looked like a friggin' world beater out there, man, and he's looked scary. But he's taken on Charles Oliveira, who's been on an absolute tear. He's won, 6 straight right now. Coming off a KO, Jared Gordon made some short work of that. But we all know Charles Oliveira has ridiculous ground game, but his striking is getting better by every fight, and that's what makes him scary. Charles Oliveira, obviously, he's taken on everyone, in the featherweight division, moved up to lightweight. This is going to be a great fight. A lot of implications here. So, Kevin, what do you think about this fight, and who do you think wins this one?
Yeah, I mean, Charles Oliveira, he's on a pretty good winning streak right now. And he's finishing fights too. He's got submissions on there, knockouts. He's all over the place. He's dangerous everywhere. But I feel like Kevin Lee is the same type of fighter. And I think being with this new camp, they're really going to mold him into more of a striker. I think he's got all the athletic ability to become an incredible striker, which we saw a little bit in the last fight with that knockout, that head kick knockout. He's still got his great wrestling. He's still got some submissions on his resume. But he does have those losses where he's been submitted. He's got the two decision losses to Ali Quinta. But he's also got some great wins. So I think he's still developing. He's still, finding his style, kind of honing some things in. But this is a really tough fight for him. He's still a young guy. So he's still got time to grow. And I think he's going to be a great fighter in a few years. I think he's going to be like one of the top 1 or 2 in that division in a couple of years. but this is a really, really tough one for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Oliveira is someone who's been around forever. I think he's got most submissions in UFC history. And him learning how to strike and getting better every fight is dangerous. And he's becoming an all-around, killer. And I know, in terms of Kevin Lee, I think before Kevin Lee even went on his tear, I remember you being like, look at this kid, Kevin Lee, like this kid's a beast, right? Even before he fought Tony, I think he got pushed in that Tony fight way too soon. But
even in that though, you saw glimpses of him performing really well. Like he almost had, is that the one where he almost knocked him out and then Tony does a somersault and he comes up with like an help? Yeah. I mean, he knocked him down. He had some takedowns against Tony, at that age. I think he was like 24 at the time, or something
insane.
like that, So he's definitely got all the ability. It's just working on those skills, getting the ring time. And I think he's going to be a force in a few years.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked about. We think that obviously behind Tony and possibly Gaethje, he's the guy that I think can compete with Khabib. His wrestling's ridiculous. He's just physically strong. His striking is getting better. I agree. This kid's still, I think he's 27 years old still. He fought for the title when he was 24, 25 years old, man. Like, he was just a baby, and now he's molding into a fighter, especially under Faras's wing, dude. Yeah. Faras turned GSP into the savage that he is today. So it's like, think about with, getting Kevin Lee to be humble, to actually respect the sport and like respect, with the fighters around him. Like, this kid's going to be an absolute killer. I agree. I think this kid could be a champ and in a couple of years, definitely be top 1, top 2 in the lightweight division. Obviously, I think he's got his weight down on Pat. We'll see this weekend because I know he struggled with that a little bit, but last fight he made it easily. So I don't know, man. I think a lot of people forgot about Kevin Lee, but that performance against Gregor was friggin' brutal and violent and showed like, he got on the mic afterwards and he said it. He goes, I'm with a new camp now. I don't want to talk title fights next. I just want to get better every fight. And then we'll start talking titles. Like, and I love that. I respect that. Before, he was too cocky. He just disrespected everyone. He wasn't, he's trying to put on an act for the cameras. I didn't like that. So I like this new Kevin Lee, and we'll see where this takes him. But this is going to be a great fight. Him versus Charles Oliveira. If I'm going to pick, I'm going to go Kevin Lee. And I think Kevin Lee, listen, I don't think there's a lot of people in the world that can compete with Charles Oliveira on the ground. But I think Kevin Lee is going to surprise a lot of people. And I think he's going to do some damage on the ground. You know what? I'm going to go. I think he's going to win ground and pound. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be in the later rounds because Kevin Lee's cardio, I know in the past he's gassed out a little bit, but I want to see where he can take this. Let's see if he can take Charles Oliveira into deep waters. I'm going to, I want like an Edson Barbosa type performance by Kevin Lee. I know that's going to be tough with Oliveira's ground skills, but that's what I'm kind of picturing. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, like when you look at it on paper, I would probably choose Oliveira just based on the record, based on the trajectory of his career, how he's been doing. And then you look at Kevin Lee, it's kind of bumpy. He's got some losses. He's been submitted, things like that. But I think him with the new camp, I think he's just going to – I think we're going to see a totally different fighter, this weekend. I think, with his ability, his athleticism and all that, and being under the right coaching, right camp, right training, I think he's going to be new and improved Kevin Lee. So I'm going to go with him. I guess we'll see Saturday if I'm right or not. But I don't know. I think with that camp, with his new focus, I think he's going to be really improved.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, regardless, big fight. I think for both these guys, definitely a lot at stake. So whoever wins this is going to be set up with a massive fight after. So this is going to propel them into the big fights that these guys obviously want. Oliveira's fought everyone and their mother, so I know he's had big fights before. But like, if he beats Kevin Lee here, this is sets up a big fight for him. Obviously, if Kevin Lee wins, he's been in those big fights too. But this is going to set up bigger life-changing fights for both of them. So awesome. Well, this main event's going to be unreal. Nice 5-rounder in Brazil. It's going to be hostile territory for Kevin Lee, so it's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
But he asked for this.
Another
He
thing.
wanted this. And whenever the UFC goes to Brazil, it's always it's insane. So I'm excited to watch this one. So, all right, perfect, buddy. Anything else from you?
No, that's all.
All right, guys, listen, click that subscribe button. We're growing. The Twitter has been blowing up. Thank you guys for taking all the polls that we do. We put out a lot of polls for the ideas, everything like that. So comment below what you want to see on the next show, any topics, any feedback, anything like that. CBD, you guys need to click the link below for 10% off. Use the code Flatline10. And until next time, boys, you know the deal. Flatline MMA. Peace.